Well, what's happening is we're live at 9:46.
Did you still want me to check the stream, or do you think are you
I'm
feeling
feeling
good?
good, and I'm sure like anyone who's actually watching at this ridiculous time of night and doesn't hit it during normal scheduled hour will actually tell us if they can't hear us, if they see us chatting away.
Is anyone actually
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
right
no,
now?
yeah, the people are people are streaming in. I, oh yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
amazing.
So
That's great.
maybe we should change our hours of delivery. Maybe we'll have increased
It's Office Flash
to Office Flash
Thursday.
Thursday on Friday.
Full house Williamson.
Well, we have the Office M365M and user group has their admin day tomorrow, and they got like 600 people
The
registered.
video just got bigger, by the way. I don't know if that.
We'll fix it. So the as the bitrate scales, I'm doing a little OBS as the bitrate scales. Todd changes in size. I'm just gonna cut over and then fix it on both sides, and then I'll cut back. So super high quality broadcast this evening, as you can certainly tell. But this one's me. So let's get to it. So I got some security stuff. Really cool in case you missed it. Um, some teams and announcements, some interesting stuff on the personal side of M365. So like on the home subscription stuff, and
Oh,
and
okay,
a fun
great.
one that I have a stump Todd for why this matters for the in case you missed it, where I could not believe I didn't like absorb the impact of it and talk about it back before Halloween.
And just for full disclosure, Doug warned me he'd have something for me, but he did not tell me
I
what it was.
didn't.
So I'm kind of
So I'm up
excited.
first, and we're gonna go through it. First, we had the announcement on Pluton, which if you are not if you're not aware, Project Pluton is the security chip that's designed to handle hardware interrupt like Azure Sphere does, like end-to-end guaranteed security components
And
on top of it.
Xbox.
Yeah, and Xbox as well. So it really is an interesting security platform for, and they have all the intel and everything else, dive-ins on top of that. So I think it is worth a read for what we're doing with the Windows security at the CPU and chip layer.
Mhm.
So it is worth it. I'm not going to fight the scaling issue. It just
That's fine.
happened again. So we'll figure it out as we go through. For some reason, it's adaptive. Todd's skyping in. It's doing adaptive codecs. So if it matters, I'll hop back and forth and fix it for on top of it. All right, but it doesn't matter for this part of it. So interesting
Yeah, that
security
does that.
announcements on top of it. There was also the interesting readouts from the home side. And
Okay.
I don't normally call out home stuff on top of it. So they had some like family safety announcement for individuals and like money spending and new PowerPoint templates and the Your Phone application and some cool stuff on to-dos and wonder. And down here was the conversation instead of your notes with transcribe and Word for the web. And you've been seeing the transcribe feature come into Teams and a whole bunch of other stuff. It is pretty slick. You just pop in, either upload an audio or hit the start recording button, and it will actually do multi-party transcription. It'll identify the individual selective features. This is live in consumer. I just signed into my own just to see if it was there, and it is live. And so you can hit that transcription, and then it'll actually load in and then put the transcription of the conversations that you put in, like if you're a college lecture and you record it or something, and then you upload it, boom. Then it shows you how to use like pull quotes from it and everything else. So
Great.
just more of that sort of. Remember we used to use Azure Video Indexer, and now we have all these
Mhm.
cognitive services running. Um, and it's just really interesting. So I think you should keep thinking how you can use that intelligence functionality on a go forward basis on
Great.
top of it. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so the more personal features from it, chat and call friends and family. So there's a friends and family teams announcement. I thought there was something kind of interesting in this one. And again, I know this is more consumer side, but they actually have a text bridge where someone can be SMSing with a Teams conversation using the consumer side one.
I have not seen this.
Yeah, so I thought
Okay.
that was kind of interesting. I just thought it was
All
worth
right.
a little a lens, a gander on
Yeah.
top of it, and then location, geolocation notifications, some other stuff. I thought that was kind of an interesting little bridgehead. I kind of wish
Right on.
that you could do that for random invitations on the on the business side. I understand why you can't from a security governance and control standpoint, but
Sure.
but part of me goes, huh? I wish that was an opt-in on.
Kind of reminds me of some stuff, that we had in GroupMe at one point.
Yeah,
right?
it feels very integral to extensibility on the GroupMe platform on top of it. I'm sorry, I just retabbed back to the one where I was on top of it. There's our Pluton announcement for it. There has been a nice white paper they put out around the holistic view of Microsoft Zero Trust. If you're sick of Zero Trust, that means you're finally getting serious about doing it, so you should be sick of it. I have no problem with people getting tired of being lectured about Zero Trust, and all we're really essentially saying is you have a user who has an untrusted, set of gateways between it. So you got users, devices, networks, there's an access policy, and then resources regardless. You're not trusting anything between the network. You're making risk adaptive access decisions at every step along the way. This is a good thing, period. There's just nothing that's not good about doing that. And they talk about, hey, here is the model for execution for Zero Trust, all the partners in the ecosystem, how to get access to the varying applications, the Azure AD App Proxy, which Greg Kosik and I did the original Channel 9 broadcasts on, right, back in the day, thinking it was the coolest thing since bread been sliced. And it's just gotten better.
And it hasn't gotten any less cool. Absolutely.
No, it's just gotten better. And they announced, remember we had the terminal services web integration we announced over the summer? So it's just, you should be rationalizing everything around conditional access. Think about MCAS for SaaS applications. They sort of go through the entire state as to what can you do around Cloud App and the whole holistic thing. So if you haven't really compared yourself to the gold standard for that and you own any of the entitlements of the suite, you should amp up security policy enough of the lecture. This one was the in case you missed it. That I wanted to talk about. Down here in October, I totally missed this post, which was Azure AD provisioning now with attribute mapping. I want to dive in on this one and say that now you can easily custom map with expression languages. You can map attributes between on-prem Active Directory and Azure AD. So you can do on-demand user provisioning in Azure AD and SaaS applications. Now that we've had that skim-skip functionality for a while. But they've improved sync performance, managing provisioning logs with Azure Monitor, so you get a little more granular details and integrations on top of it. And so they say, hey, look, when they map Azure AD attributes from on-prem Active Directory to Azure AD, there's actually a whole mapping exercise within Azure AD Connect where you can say, hey, what's the mapping type? Is it a direct or is it an expressional mapping? Where you can actually morph the attributes on top of this.
Okay.
And notice that there's the different types of attributes that we're mapping about. So you can have, including data transformation when objects are synchronized on top of it. Okay. So on-demand provisioning of users, sync for Azure AD Connect for properties and the rest of the stuff. So if you go look at the cloud provisioning attribute mapping, they have direct, constant, and expression, where you can talk about source and target attribute mapping. And you go, hey, I want to go ahead and manage these attributes and do my own custom attribute mapping. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for me, this matters at a ton of things because we have a whole lot of stuff about knowledge and about the user and the attributes and all sorts of things that we can put on-prem or for SaaS applications. We can now actually attach that to these auxiliary attributes, and because things like Power Apps and the rest of it, you can use the Azure AD Graph Connect to read that. We can do dynamic personalization, customization of citizen development tools based on characteristics from on-prem applications, or feed those attributes into cloud provisioning for other SaaS applications for dynamic personalization and customization. This is a really big deal.
Wait, so do I understand correctly that previously my attributes did not come over?
No, you couldn't control it. You either said this is coming, but you have attribute mapping and look at the expression on top of it, like replace mail with Contoso.com, right?
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh, it's incredibly cool. Like, what's the target attribute? What's the default value of null? When to apply the mapping on top of it? I cannot believe I missed this. For me, this is one of those moments where you're like, this adds a certain level of really interesting permutations around synchronization and capability access for the Azure AD provisioning stuff. So it's instrumented inside of Azure AD Connect. So if you're staying current, you have on top of that. Yep. And what I liked is you can map from on-prem Azure to Azure AD. You can perform user provisioning to Azure AD and SaaS applications. And so the more dynamic personalization you have. Now, one thing I haven't checked, and I just saw this and I was like, huh, I should dig in. Is they now have attribute mapping. I don't know if this extends to the group objects.
Okay.
But if it does, which I bet it doesn't right now, but otherwise I'm going to talk to the engineering team and see if we can get an update on when it might support that. That would then really be interesting because, we showed the examples of Power App customization based off the dynamic GUID. Well, once you had the GUID, we were then reading back in the Azure AD Graph components, getting the extended attribute manifest. So whether you do it this or through other synchronization processes, you have the ability to do some really dynamic customizations and personalizations of Power Apps within teams based on user attributes and potentially based on group attributes through this or through another provisioning sync operation on top of it. So it just goes to show how nuanced that synchronization is becoming.
Yep.
And the power of personalization that you can do on top of it. So I saw it, and I was like, I don't know if that's interesting. And I suddenly realized, no, that potentially has some crazy powerful impact, the ability to map those attributes across.
Where do you see the expression-based, manipulation? Like, what do you think the use case there was? Was it security? What do you think is the big driver of that?
So I know this is my history coming in, but people do not always keep their Active Directories up to date or clean.
Okay, so you think this is largely an opportunity to hey, that crap you have on-prem?
Yeah, maybe you want to rationalize one of the 92 different domain suffixes you haven't put them into. One of my customers has something they used to call, they had 157 Active Directory environments between merger and acquisitions, and they had what they called Magic Spackle, which is this whole framework on top of it. But you would not want to synchronize Magic Spackle up into the cloud. You would want to write some rules. So we're just going to pretend that we haven't been horrible to ourselves for the last 15 years.
I see.
Right. So there's a lot of things that I can think about where you're like, oh, what about duplicative forest names, right? You got a .local go around out there and you want to clean that up. I can think of so many reasons that you would want to do that. Anyway, so I'll stop at that point.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I just thought.
But I guess the key there is there's probably a million things you can do with it.
Fascinating.
But
yeah.
But you have some flexibility and control.
And it's in the dang GUI now.
Very good.
You've got an expressional language, and people are really good at provisioning Active Directory. They have a lot of legacy integrations to Active Directory. I mean, they shut down the dang enterprise on-prem directory because Active Directory owned the entire market, right? Everyone knows how to synchronize to Active Directory. Now you can take those attributes, a whole bunch of the extensible ones, right? The extensible attributes up to the 15, and even do your own custom ones if you wish to. But you can map those up and put them around. Now, I know people did not often change their on-prem schema. They were a little more concerned about that. But this just really affords, I think, some really interesting opportunities. I'll leave it at that. You should check it out. You should think about the premises on-prem attributes you have and how you can manifest those for increased personalization, security trimming, and dynamic provisioning into your SaaS estate and into your internal developed applications.
I'd be willing to bet there's at least one or two people that are going to watch this and say, this will solve this problem.
It will solve a problem, yeah. There's several problems it could solve. And if it has the group functionality or if it gets it, even more fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Because then I could just say I'm going to synchronize these attributes about like customer project ID associated to a group provisioning, right? Then I have that group GUID, so I could dynamically personalize Teams applications. Because there's a lot you can do when you have these, and we've shown off, Brian Cowie did that amazing demo on dynamic personalization capabilities of Power Apps, right? On our show. And so I think this extensibility could really add to that.
Neat. That's really neat.
Okay, that was mine in case you missed it for the week. There was also, I think I scrubbed past it. There was some announcements around Teams, and I really don't want to blow past that because there was a couple of things. I'm going to do the live, go back to the whole. So if it'll let me, click in. For some reason, I'm a little delayed.
Happens to us sometimes.
On top of it, so the what's new to November. I thought I had it queued up, but I don't know where the tab is, so I may, if it doesn't come in here in a second, I'll come around on top of it. Oh, there it was. There were a couple of things that we wanted to share on the team side. The noise suppression started to roll in GA, which I think we would all enjoy activating on top of it. They had the new meeting experience apps, the Teams apps for meetings, which are meeting-specific applications. Those are fascinating. I think you should really explore them. I mean, they're kind of self-explanatory, but they have a few examples of on top of that, and the real-time noise suppression on top of it. That you can now instantiate a full Power Automate sequence directly within Teams. Mm-hmm. Continuing everything can be done within Teams. Teams, right?
I've got those apps pinned. I've got Power Automate. I've got Power BI. There's so many things that I don't even need to leave Teams.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yep. They have the referencing sticky notes on the OneNote page on top of that stuff. There was the pretty cool screen cap, share web content capture functionality. It's pretty cool. I mean, you all do this, and we usually use, Sketch and Snip, and you drop it in the mail or you do whatever. So you get some cool stuff on top of that. And then, like I said, the family sharing ones, which I had on top of it. So I thought this one was kind of interesting, that you do have the Yammer notifications in your Teams feed. I've enjoyed that. Like the consolidated alert feed of my community alerts directly within. That's been super useful.
I'll be honest, I didn't realize that was like, we've had that so long internally, I didn't realize that was new.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love that because frankly, it I don't know. It puts Yammer in context.
Right. This is my teams. These are my communities, and you get all your notifications in one spot, and it just works.
Absolutely, it's great.
And so they have they announced the endpoint data loss prevention for extends data protection capabilities. So there's some extensibility on top of that for sensitive information protection. And then they did some interesting sketch your AWS architecture in Visio for the web. So Visio for the web going cross-cloud from a capability standpoint. So kind of fun stuff. The biggest one for me was the Yammer integration that's coming, and then some of the Teams announcements around the apps for meetings and the rest of the stuff. So that rounds it out for me.
Teams continues to move at like a breakneck speed. It's crazy how.
Yeah, I was having a discussion with one of the leadership over in the solutions organization today, and they were calling out the difference between. I thought it was an interesting characteristic. There's Microsoft's strategy around app integration, and there's Microsoft's strategy of Teams as a platform, right? And you're seeing this app integration story almost competing, right? That are built on top of the platform with some of the first-party stuff from Microsoft. But not in a bad way, because they may be highly optimized for an industry or a specific scenario or whatever it is, but the ecosystem that is exploding on top of this and the choices you have, which is why the app governance stuff and the control sequences that we did, that's all like super important. All right, so awesome. I'm going to go back and check moderated side and the rest of the stuff. I'll be watching that now, and I'm going to put you on stage. I think I've right balanced it. So are you ready to take over?
Yes,
all right. Well, you are on.
Sir, hey, that's my screen. Hey, that's my screen.
It's amazing how this technology thing works.
We live in the future. Truly.
Now.
All right.
I had. So I missed last. And the reason we're doing this tonight is because you've got the admin workshop tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Admin. I don't want to call it the wrong thing.
It's the M365 Admin Day.
Admin Day. And I've got I'm working with a customer tomorrow, but I didn't want to miss another. That's why we're doing this on a Thursday night.
Well, Michelle and I did it last week, but I found out that my plugin to my Stream Deck, if it goes to sleep, halts the stream on the way back. So I troubleshot it using Mark Rusinovich's kernel troubleshooting tools in order to find out why the hell I was having stream lockups. So.
Oh, yikes.
It's always something, right? Like you think you have all this convenience set up with this beautiful touch experience for running your show, and then it goes into sleep mode, it wakes up, and it just goes, sorry.
Well, nary a month goes by when we've been doing this show for like what? How long? 3 years? And nary a month goes by where we don't have like some last minute crisis because some BS happens.
Yeah, because it's just you and me producing it, right? So here we go.
And it's just like we show up.
I just miss Emily McMiller, who always made it go so much better without.
Hi, Emily.
Yeah,
Hi, Emily.
Exactly. I mean, she's still gainfully employed, but she's just not able to produce, right? So.
Yep.
All right then, Mr. Kidda, you are on deck.
Emily is like our Jerry, our favorite podcast. Stuff you should know. I would say. All right. The paginated reports. I love this. This month. I love this. So I got bigger again. Samples. And I got bigger again. One of the cool things that I liked about this gives across a smattering of kind of capabilities around images or parameters or things that people are going to be doing with paginated reports. But one of the things that I absolutely love is that they made a concerted effort thanks to someone that I know from Megan, around making these all accessible. Showing how those work and showing how those work and all those things. I thought that was some great effort there. So you can also now download the RDL. Not only download the RDL from Power BI, which is the definition of a paginated report, but it will stay connected to the Power BI data set it's connected to. So a little bit like an export live connected back. You can now search in parameter dropdowns, which is super useful, and then more customization using the page view parameters, so different kind of UI options, and stuff. So that's pretty cool stuff. So that's pretty. There's the docs on that. All right, so we are now. So a little bit back. We announced the couple things around Power BI Premium, which I'll be talking about today. Power BI 2 Premium is now available as in preview. So this is you can now go and start to look at this. With things around auto scale and improve performance. No limit refresh inside of a premium capacity. This is really great stuff. One of the things with premium, as good as it was, and that it solved the license that it solved from the license, it was another thing to manage. And I think that one of the tenets that I'm seeing with Power BI Premium that I'm seeing with is reducing that management, cognitive load on the admins of Power BI. So Power BI. I'm super excited to see this finally come to preview. Go check that out. Wow. A lot of really cool stuff and data flows this month. Not the least of which is diagram view. I know you're kind of a not closet, but big Power Query fan. And I told you that you're really going to like diagram view. And it just is a visual view into your steps and your flows. Also, that's interactive, right? So if you need to go back and manipulate a step, change the logic, or pick a column, you can now do that visually. You always had that the right hand pane that showed your steps, which is basically representing your M code. But seeing it visually, it's just another whole different experience that really communicates what is happening. A lot of times too, what is happening? You'd have really arcane names for these steps and things like that. Names for these steps. So I think this diagram view is so I think this. We also had the schema view, which is great too, because it's showing you all your column names in one place, along with their data types. So this is just another good way to take stock of what looks like, and because it's not really necessarily easy to see it in the grid view of if you have a very wide table. Also bringing columns by example and web by example to Power Query Online, right? Those are some much loved features inside of Power Query in Power BI Desktop. Those are coming to Power Query Online. Adding fuzzy group by. So we've had fuzzy matching file inside of for joins and things like that. But now we have a fuzzy group by option, as well as this thing that I thought was really interesting called cluster values, which use together. But kind of group them with a canonical value. So you can see here, you have a Bill and a Will.
Hey Todd, just so you know, I had misconfigured something and you were echoing a little bit, but I fixed it.
Oh, okay.
So if anybody's like, hey, why is there echo on this video? It was all Doug's fault. Proceed.
Okay. Oh, all right. Collapse Bill and Will into one row. But I have the option of looking at them as Bill or Will, but also as the canonical value of Bill, right? And you can see the score as well if you want to use that. So this gives you some flexibility, and this is called, again, cluster values, and it's related to fuzzy grouping. Pretty cool. This is based in Query between Power Query Online and Power BI or Power Query Desktop. And this is not just copying and pasting the M, right? This is actually just literally copying and pasting the query. So this is pretty cool if you want to take something that you built in, and I know this works from desktop to online. I believe it works the other way around as well. Yes. So this is a pretty cool feature. Being able to copy data out of the query editor window. By the way, this is like the most updates for Power Query in a month that I've seen in quite a while. Multi-select in the queries pane over here. A query script mode where you're able to actually kind of switch back and forth between like a line and a step, because previously you could just see the kind of individual step that you were on. So that's kind of neat. So I'm not going to read you the whole thing. Oh, except I've been waiting for this one for a long time. Parquet connector, I think continues to proliferate and become a little more. I think Parquet is sneaking into people's lexicon. I'll say that from a data perspective. If you don't know what Parquet is, it's a very popular file format choice inside of data lakes.
You were so excited about this. You were just like, oh, Parquet support. Yeah. So.
Well, because a lot of times what you have to when you're working with a customer on like designing a data lake strategy and talking through different approaches to data formats in a data lake and pros and cons, one of the cons of choosing something like Parquet is not everything in the world knows how to speak Parquet, right? But everybody needs CSV, but there's a lot of things that are fraught with using CSVs. But anyway, so being able to add that into where Power Query speaks Parquet, super happy, super supportive of that.
All right, can I just do a sidecar nerd while you're doing this? If you notice Todd's videos upscaling and downscaling from size, I actually opened a monitor on the side. I'm actually seeing the dynamic scaling for the video stream come in for dynamic bandwidth optimization.
So because we are using Skype, we are talking to each other on Skype Consumer.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And using the NDI capabilities of Skype.
Right.
And what we're witnessing, which is interesting, is that Skype, unsurprisingly, does dynamic resolution.
Yeah,
now I wonder. Does that,
I believe. They might still be using the legacy Skype codec, or if they move to H.264 SVC. But I can actually see the scaling. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm not going to try and keep resizing it every time I guess. It just Todd. There you go. You're back.
So two quick last things. The Enhanced Compute Engine is now GA. We've talked about this quite a few times.
That's awesome.
If you're using data flows, you should certainly be aware of the Enhanced Compute Engine, and odds are probably using it. But you should definitely be aware of it and see if you can benefit from it. It is now GA. It's basically using SQL in your Power BI to cache your data flows. And we have some enhanced data flows APIs, thank goodness. So, all right, what else do we got here? Some new November features. You know what? I'm going to save this one, I think. Let's save this one for next week. That one's a little long. Power BI Premium for per user is now publicly available, right? So this is where, previously there's a lot of capabilities that are inside Power BI Premium that, aside from just like the licensing aspects, that are premium only. Paginated reports, for example, you had to have premium. So that was a big step up, right? From maybe only needing Power BI Pro in your organization. And if you need paginated reports, the only way to get it was to purchase a Power BI Premium capacity. And that was maybe a big pill to swallow right up front. We're now giving you the option to do Power BI Premium per user, which we had talked about previously, and that is now in public preview. So if you've been waiting for that and you'd like to give it a try, I encourage you to do that. So I'm rather excited about this one. All right, anomaly detection. This one, is pretty. I don't know. There's a lot to say here, but this one is pretty cool because it's a new feature that you can go enable, show it in one of your time series data, and you can just basically say find anomalies within this sensitivity, and it starts to find some things that seem to be weird, right? Based on past data. So a lot of really cool anomaly detection API or
models out there in the world, and I like seeing the enhanced AI capabilities in Power BI there too. Cool. Moving beyond, I have 2 more things. That was a lot of Power BI stuff. I was very Power BI heavy this week. That's why I skipped the desktop release. We'll talk about that next week. Am I sounding okay, Doug?
No, yeah, I fixed it.
Okay.
It was all me.
So
it turns out if I add you in twice and send out 2 streams of you, it generates an echo.
No one needs 2 streams of me. That's too many. 1 stream is more than enough for most people. So
entropy.
What's that?
Nothing.
Okay, I missed it. Sometimes this post is fun just because it's so gratuitous, right? 24 new connectors. It's like, wow, how many do you need? But I really love calling out. I mean, if your thing in here that is important to you is in here, then awesome. I'm really happy for you. I love that our connector ecosystem is just so ridiculously good and robust. We were just actually talking about the other day how much we're loving at ACS, or Azure Communication Service. So we've added that in for SMS. So Azure now has native SMS capabilities inside of Azure Communication Service. Some Fire stuff, which is really great for our healthcare customers out there. What else do we got? Oh, I thought that said the Peloton connector. I think that would be kind of weird. Power Apps Notifications v2. And there we go. If your thing is in there, then I'm happy for you, and it's a great month for you. All right. I'm in love with, I've kind of professed my love on this forum before for Power Automate Desktop and UI flows. Here comes the November update. A lot of the stuff is fit and finish. I did want to show the air handling. A second level of air handling is introduced, so being able to basically create like like I think of this as I grew up as a C# dev, a try-catch block, right, where I can handle an error and be elegant about how I'm doing that. Web elements are now captured properly during web recording. I'm actually amazed. I did a pretty robust POC with a customer desktop a few weeks back. And I was actually, as new as it is, I was actually amazed at how kind of robust and mature a lot of this stuff is. There's still, you still run into some of the stability stuff because it's a preview thing, and every once in a while it's like save often, right? But as far as capabilities, being able to do things like look for an image, and it's everything you kind of want to accomplish is just kind of there. And I love that. I always love our accessibility, our commitment to accessibility really across the board. And it looks like we've been able to enhance our accessibility inside of Power Automate Desktop. So for that, I am thankful, and I'm sure especially those that are going to take advantage of that are as well. So I'm excited to see that. That, Doug, is what I have for this month.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be definitely off next week.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, so it'll be 2 weeks, but we'll have kind of a special edition of Flash Friday at the MN 365 MN 0365 user group admin day tomorrow. So I'm going to do a very extensive integration of Office scripts with Power Automate and some Teams integration, and so I'm sort of recreating an Ignite demo with a little nuance around it.
Is that going to be recorded? Like, can I watch that?
Yeah, I'll record it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
So if not, I'm sure the user group will have recordings of it, but I'll do a peer recording and post it. It's going to be a little, so we're going to dive in on like Office scripts, which is the Office automation layer inside of, I know people like this analogy, but it is the future of the Visual Basic for applications functionality. Only, much like how Power Apps and everything became this next generation platform that like brought forth the history of approachability of Microsoft Access without the tech debt burden and angst, right? Like you and I said, this is kind of like Microsoft Access and its approachability and popularity, but without like all the hatred from an IT governance and control standpoint, right? And I feel like Office scripts is that. It brings that to VBA. Like the engine, the editor engine kind of works like the Power BI desktop transform encoder. Like it shows all the individual steps, and you can go break them down. But then it auto annotates, and it uses the Monaco VS Code editor for IntelliSense inline for component integration.
Man, the mileage we've got out of Monaco is just the coolest.
It's
Monaco
crazy.
Is such a cool piece of tech.
Crazy. That is just.
If you don't know what Monaco is or haven't read about the history of Monaco, go read about it. It's been around for what now, like 6-7 years.
Yeah, and I mean it's what makes VS Code VS Code.
Yeah.
So I just think it'll be fun to see what we can do as a community with that level of, because there's still a lot of business data lives in Excel, right? Maybe it has destinations in other places, but you know, you can do a ton of amazing business-oriented transformation on top of that. So I'm going to try and show and get people's idea going on top of that tomorrow. And then we'll be off, and we'll be back the week after the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. So thanks for tuning in. On our late night version, we'll be posting this up, and you updated the AK link for tomorrow, so if people join during the scheduled window at a sane hour, they'll be like, oh look, the show's there.
It's already there to watch.
I got nothing else. You have a good
I just hope that for those that, you know, in the US here that are celebrating Thanksgiving, I know that this year is a little wacky, but I hope that everyone is staying safe and gets time to talk to their family or whatever you end up doing.
Be safe. As you know, like COVID hit my household, right? Even though we isolate and mask and do all those right things, so make good choices. Right? Yeah. Even if you don't, you know, things can still come at you, but your odds are better if you make smart choices. So I'll just leave it at that.
That's right.
So be safe.
So what does your shirt say?
The shirt has on top of it. It says embrace science, resist ignorance. So we'll just leave it at that. And so it's science. So embrace science, resist ignorance, and keep on minding the gap. Right? There's a GUI, an API, and a power something to solve almost every problem. Todd, you take care. Everyone else, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Peace.